and me, Brianna. Oh wait, did you just start doing it now? Okay, so we'll say it again. Okay. We have Rachel, Tracy, Vivian, Brianna, and Emily went missing, but for participation reasons,
She was here.
She's having technical difficulties. All right, so let's start the conversation again.
Do you guys, I was already taking notes on what we were saying. Do you want me just to continue that? Are you guys okay with me doing that?
Yeah,
We're good. Thank you.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, so let's see, the first thing we're supposed to discuss is the young man who's against the same-sex marriage, his video. And these are the questions that it listed. What principles of effective speaking did you see in his speech? What was the bias and or premises for his stance? If you were on the fence when it came to same-sex marriage, how would you feel after listening to his speech? And what was less effective about his speech? So what principles of effective speaking did we see from him?
Not much.
I felt like, not much. I felt like, if nothing else, he was very passionate about what he was speaking about. I think that in any case, if you're gonna advocate for something, you have to be passionate about it. But as far as positives, that's really the only positive that I saw.
Yeah, that's true.
Like I mentioned earlier, I felt like the minute that he brought God and the God argument into the equation, he alienated anybody who doesn't believe in God. And so, he really wasn't, I don't think, aware of who he was speaking to, or I'm sure he wasn't aware of what he was doing, or else he would have chosen a different angle or a different tactic. But that's the point, is that he wasn't considering the opposition or who he was trying to persuade.
Yeah, and I was reading the body language of the audience a little bit, and I compared the two. Like with the one that just like his argument was the Bible, and everyone just kind of like would look around, leave, But
yeah, they were leaving.
Yeah, and the second one, everyone. Yeah,
Watch the guy. There's an old guy that had an olive shirt and red suspenders that was like right behind him, and watching him, and it's so funny to see how he was standing in one versus the other, and like you said, they're really in one instance like totally paying attention. The other one, he's kind of like looking around, like not. Yeah, that's interesting. But it's if you say
can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Sorry. I'm doing it.
Oh, Emily sounds like a robot.
She sounds Chinese.
They're rubbing off on me.
Hey, we got that.
All right. Well, gosh, there was something else I was going to say, and at the time I thought, oh, this is really good, but maybe not, because I've forgotten it. So one of my kind of takeaways from the first guy was that if you're going to base your whole argument on one singular thing, like his whole argument was kind of based on the Bible, then you're making it so that your argument isn't really that strong. Because only if every single person in the world believes in that book or that whatever it is, that publication, or unless everybody believes in it, then you're taking away so many would-be listeners from what you're saying. So even if you keep referencing, like, let's say you're really into Stephen Covey's, 7 Habits for Highly Effective People. Well, if you keep referencing that over and over and over as a basis for your argument, then anybody who's read it and doesn't like it is automatically not going to listen.
Yeah.
So I think, just in general, we all need to be careful that we're not overemphasizing something like that.
We were given the quote, I think it was last week, that we're each entitled to our opinion, but we can't change facts. And, that ties back to people don't believe the Bible, don't believe in God. But if we use facts, if we go back to this is what the facts are, then it doesn't matter whether they believe the Bible or not because we're giving them facts.
Yeah.
And if we give our personal opinion, our personal story, then you can't change that either because that's our story that we experienced. So as we're saying, we have to use facts.
And I really like that you brought out the point that it's nobody can argue personal experience. I mean, they can look at it and kind of say, well, I would have handled things differently, or but if you're just saying this is just my experience, nobody can say, well, that's not valid.
Right.
I think this is just a funny aside, but didn't you guys feel like, I don't know, just this whole week as I'm like, especially in the Marcia Barlow speech, I was like, man, these are some really good pointers and tips for like teaching lessons in church. like starting out with a story and engaging your audience and like all these things. I was like, yeah, that's a good idea. And I really liked, here's what I wanted to do. I wanted anybody who's ever giving a sacrament meeting talk, I wanted them to hear the part that says that it's better to be short than it is. She said less is more, and she was talking about it, and I was like, yes, I want everybody to hear that.
And you'll catch people's attention if you give them a story. I mean, I thought that was interesting that it verified that, but I've known that. Or if you can give them a story, then they'll listen.
Yeah.
And when I watch General Conference, those are the things I remember. Like, I go back and read and obviously get the doctrine and the principles, but just off the top of my head, that's what I remember, the stories.
Yep. I also thought another weakness that I saw in the guy's first argument was, I mean, he didn't necessarily get angry, but did you guys sense kind of like an angry tone? And like the scripture references that he used were showing God's anger. You know what I mean? Like he will, I don't remember exactly what he says, something sense of burn you, and to an audience might have compassion on homosexuals, I think they would take that very negatively. Like we want to burn them, and it's like, I don't know. So I thought, I mean, it'd be different if he did use maybe the negative outcomes found in scriptures, like, I don't know, I'm sure there are some, I can't think of any, but, like that actually affect society, that would be effective to use scriptural reference, because it actually is history, But,
so let me ask you like this. One of the questions is, if you were on the fence comes to same-sex marriage, how would you feel after listening to his speech? This is number one. So how would you feel if you were on the fence and that's the only argument you heard?
I would not be in favor
yeah.
of like traditional marriage.
I would be upset because I almost felt like he was coming from a place of chastisement, like saying, I'm right and you're wrong, and if you don't believe what I do, then, damnation and burning are in your future.
Yeah, I felt like it was like a Baptist minister or something.
Yeah.
Just preaching.
Mm-hmm.
It was very negative, so it's going to turn you off.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's interesting. It does speak a lot to the point of what is your, I think it would have been so much more powerful had he had personal experience, but he's going to stand up there as some young kid and act like he knows better than everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
It was very off-putting.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we've got that one pretty good. So let's talk about the second speech for same-sex marriage, and it's the same questions. So we talked about what principles of effective speaking did you see. We talked about storytelling, connecting with his audience, and the basis for his stance was personal experience. And then I think we all agree if we were on the fence and we heard his speech, we would all be wanting to rally behind him and kind of be on his side, right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think we're all on the same page with that. But what was less effective about the second speech? Is there anything about that one?
He still didn't really use any facts or anything. It was all just personal stories and personal experiences. There was no factual backing to anything he said.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, that's true. That's
Do you
about what
know? Yeah. Do you know what he did that I think he did a really good job of was the idea of reframing, because he kind of took. He didn't focus so much on what people get caught up on, the definition of what makes a marriage or family. Like, he knew that those were going to be hot button issues, and that if he focused too heavily, I think, on those, he would be kind of making an argument. He just focused on his own experience and kind of the reframing the idea of what makes a family without being so obvious, you know.
Yeah.
But as far as what was ineffective, I agree with what everybody else is saying.
Yeah, it's true. He did rely solely on, narrative. But Marcia Barlow, she said, if you're going to choose between, the story and the facts, go with the story, But like she said, if you can combine them, you're golden, So that is where he could have been.
He also made you want to. He told how all the good things that he's done. He said, I'm doing this and this and this. How can you say that I wasn't raised well?
Mm-hmm.
So he was.
He made it
putting a very positive spin on it.
He made it.
And I don't know if you guys noticed where he addressed the chairperson directly, and he said, "I dare to say that if I was your son, Mr. Chairperson, that you would be proud." So he's kind of making it personal to who he knows is the one that's going to be responsible for voting, which I think was smart, But here's the real takeaway for me. The first guy, after he spoke, everybody felt uncomfortable, and it didn't encourage you to talk more about the issue, regardless of whether or not you agreed. The second guy that spoke, when it was all said and done, it made you want to think more about it. I think it made you want to discuss, or at the very least talk to, if you were in the room, talk to him and say, that was really interesting. So what is our point? Do we want people to talk more about these issues? Yes. We don't want to shut people out. So I just thought that was really important.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Tracy, thank you for taking notes for us.
Oh, I don't mind. Honestly, I do not mind at all.
Very good at it. So.
On the question, what was the basis and or premise for his stance? This is still speech number 2. Other than personal experience and kind of drawing his audience in, is there anything else you want me to put with that? Because that's really what he did.
That is.
I put his premise was love, and that love is what makes a family.
Mm-hmm.
So he kind of pointed that out, that, why should there be any other definition besides love for a family?
Yeah. That's a good one, Emily. I put that one down.
Okay, so now the article that a couple of us were initially discussing before we hit record, the article by Matt Walsh, which was the blogger, and it says, what principles of effective writing did you see in this article? This one's going to be a little bit tricky because most of us didn't even know which side he was on for most of the article when we were reading it. I don't know if everybody else felt that way, but there was a couple of us discussing it at the beginning, saying we really had to get to the end to figure out what he was talking about.
Well, he kind of lost you. You have to, in the writing, they said it has to be precise and has to be, you have 700 words, to 1,000 to say what you want to say. And I didn't even want, it was like, okay, this is getting too long. I didn't want to even keep going and reading it. So, so yeah, he didn't want you to keep reading.
I thought, weren't you guys, I was maybe a little shocked, but ultimately impressed at when Marcia Barlow put the Gettysburg Address up on the screen to realize how short it is in reality, and I was like, wow, you can put so much power into something, and you don't have to just keep writing and writing and beating the issue to death. I think that's one of the challenges, but if you can achieve that, if you can achieve getting your point across in a smaller amount of words, I think all the better for it. He was good at using buzzwords, like, when he was addressing the Supreme Court as like high priests and glorious deities, and at the beginning, and of course it was tongue-in-cheek, but I think he was good initially at drawing in an audience, but then, like you said, Vivian, he lost us. He lost us probably sooner than halfway through. So, and his point.
Points, yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say his point didn't even come until the end. So then, it's like, what did we take away? Well, not a lot.
Marcia, in her video, she said to avoid being snarky. And I thought he was totally snarky. He was being sarcastic.
For that as a blogger.
Yeah, and it doesn't make you want to keep following him if he's making a rude comment. Anyway, for me, it didn't.
Yeah, I think the funny thing is, at the beginning, didn't it seem to you guys he was being snarky towards like pro-family people, and so I think automatically but maybe that was his strategy. Maybe he wanted people that were on the opposite side to feel like, oh yeah, he's on our side. Let's get fired up about it, and then all of a sudden they're like, wait a second, he's not on our side. But they were kind of forced to read the points, So.
Yeah, I felt like he was being sarcastic, which is not a good tool to use, especially if you're going to do it in writing. Because how do you read sarcasm into something that someone has written? You can't. If you're talking, you can hear the tone, you can watch the body language, and you can kind of see, like, oh, well, they're doing that on purpose. But if you're reading it, it's very difficult to decipher.
Yeah, it was definitely interesting.
So the question, if you were on the fence when it comes to same-sex marriage, how would you feel after reading this article? I wrote down that our group would still be on the fence.
On the fence.
That's right. I don't know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
True. That's how I felt.
We're not leaving the fence.
We snapped us back and forth too many times. We didn't move anywhere.
Yeah.
As painful as it is, we're still sitting there.
Yeah. We're waiting for someone to bring us knowledge.
To bring us some food.
We're Chinese. That's funny. Yeah, I agree with that.
And then it says, what was less effective about his article? And I put, the group felt that it was hard to figure out what side he was advocating for. We felt that he was very vague on which side he was actually promoting, and it felt that he was rambling on without getting to his point. He didn't keep us engaged, and he was very snarky towards his audience. Is there anything else on that for the less effective?
No, that sounds good.
That's good.
Now, they want to know what questions we still have.
I don't have any.
I don't have any either.
I'm good.
This was, to me, this was very effective, and I'm actually going to use this in a lesson that I'm teaching to the young women. I'm going to use these 2 videos because we're talking about, how do you stand up for what you believe in, and how do you share your ideas without coming across as, Bible bashing, basically. Yeah. And so I'm going to use these videos in my lesson and not say anything and just show them. And I'm interested to see the teenager point of view on this because I think that's the worldview, is the second young man. That's the worldview. It's flashier, it's more colorful, it's more engaging, it's more entertaining, and I feel like we're the first guy where we're just going, no, that's not right. So
I only said like 40 words in 5 minutes.
Yeah, so I'm excited to get their view on that and maybe use some of this to teach them how to talk to other people about these views, because they deal with it every day. So,
yeah, and I would be so interested, Tracy, to hear back next week and kind of hear, what you felt like, how they reacted to it, because it was funny when I was making the correlation between giving a lesson and stuff. And I just gave the Relief Society lesson this last Sunday, and I'm watching Marsha Barlow's thing, and I'm going, oh yeah, that is, like, you know, when you tell a story, that is really what people pay attention to. Yeah, and this is in hindsight, but I was like, she's exactly right. So
yeah,
anyway,
that's what when I was doing.
But because of the. Sorry, go ahead. I was just going to say, because of the issue and the subject matter of what Tracy's addressing, I think it would be even more interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, you guys have to go up.
Does anyone have any more comments, or should we start summarizing for the last minute?
I think we're good.
All right.
I'm good. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna. I read to you guys pretty much everything that I had written down there, so I will go ahead and put it on the discussion board for everyone to see. So, and then next week, Vivian, if you want to do what Rachel did and just send in a couple notes on the questions.
Okay, do you want me to just put it there on the discussion board?
If you just email it, that would be good, because I think if we put it on the discussion board, then it looks like those are our notes.
Okay.
So if you want to email it, and then what I did for when Rachel wasn't there is I took hers and merged them with ours, and then we did put in there, Rachel, that you sent those to us and your thoughts were incorporated in that. So just so you know.
Yeah. No, I saw that, and I thought that worked perfectly, you know, especially since I couldn't participate. So it was, yeah, it worked out really nicely.
Okay. Okay. So I am going to go ahead and finish this up and set it up there, and I'll see you guys next week.
All right.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay. Bye.
Okay.
Bye.